A very good morning to all. Uh, Today our topic is dengue fever. The objectives of today's class is about we will be seeing introduction for dengue fever, and then what is the burden of the dengue fever in our country, and regarding its epidemiology, and then regarding its clinical features, pathogenesis, and pathology, and also we will be looking upon this diagnosis and treatment part, and then recent guidelines which has been given by our Indian government of regarding the treatment of dengue fever, and so on. So dengue fever, uh, why is it very important about dengue fever in our country? Because it is a acute febrile illness caused by 4 related closely virus serotypes of flavivirus. The it is a virus which is the name of the virus is a dengue virus, and it comes under serotypes of flavivirus, and it's transmitted by Aedes aegypti mosquito. Why it is very important from pediatrics aspect is because children younger than 15 years comprise 90% of the cases in dengue, and then 10 to 20% of the cases who develop okay, 10 to 20% of cases of dengue fever develop shock with plasma leakage. That shock with the plasma leakage is a adds to the morbidity, and it's one of the most one of the causes for mortality. So it is a very important part to diagnose this shock with plasma leakage and then treat these people with the fluids so that they won't worsen further. So regarding that microbiology of the virus, it is a single stranded RNA virus and is very small in size, counting to 50 nanometer. And the 4 dengue virus serotypes are DenV1, DenV2, DenV3, and DenV4. These 4 are and most of the things are antigenically similar, but there are some differences which leads to elicit some elicit cross protection only for a few months after infection by any one of them. So infection with any one serotype confers lifelong immunity to the virus serotype. Like if since it is all these 4 viruses are not completely antigenically similar, so if a person is getting infected by one serotype, it will confer immunity to that serotype only for lifelong. Other 3 serotypes, it won't confer immunity, because it is not completely antigenically similar. So the 4, since one infection with one serotype can confer immunity to only one that serotype. So what is the problem is the immunity to other 3 serotypes won't get developed. So that's the reason these 4 dengue virus serotypes can co-circulate in the endemic areas, because the immunity to one serotype does not afford protection from the infection by heterotypous serotype. So individual variations occur in antibody responses to the dengue viruses. So what happens is, if a person is getting affected by dengue virus one serotype, he will mount a response to the virus, and then he will develop, antibodies will get developed. But the thing is, if he is again getting infected by the dengue 1 virus, that immunity will be helpful for him. But for example, if he is getting infected by another serotype other than dengue virus, that will lead to risk of serious disease outcomes. The pathology and pathophysiology behind that I will be explaining in the further slides. So primary and secondary infections are distinguishable based on their antibody responses. So the virus, before going to that, we will have some basic concepts about the virus genome. So it is composed of 3 structural proteins genes encoding and that 3 structural protein genes are nucleocapsid of core protein, membrane associated protein, and envelope protein. 7 non-structural proteins are there NS1, NS2A, NS2B, NS3, NS4A, NS4B, and NS5. This is important because in dengue virus, it is important in the aspect of diagnosis part. So patients having measurable levels of NS1 protein in the blood, it is utilized as a diagnostic marker for this infection. So pathology is first a dengue virus infection is happening, followed by that production of antibodies and presence of enhancing antibodies will happen. Simultaneously, there will be activation of T cells also. So this T cells is CD8 T cells. So the other part, antigen antibody reaction. These the antibodies which are produced by the body will go and bind with the dengue virus antigen, and these will form an immune complex. This immune complex will go and get deposited in many places, like in endothelial cells, it will get deposited in the platelets and many other places, like various tissues. So what will happen? This immune complex will deposit in these places, and then it will fix complement. So after fixation of the complement, that complement activation complex, complement destruction complex, that C5 to C9 will get formed, and then it will form pores and it will damage all the cells. So what it will happen? It will manifest as clinical manifestations of coagulopathy. Since endothelial cells are destroyed, the blood vessels are damaged, and also platelets are also damaged. So it will manifest as clinical manifestation of coagulopathy. That will lead to hypotension shock, and it will also have manifestations of pleural effusion, ascites, bleeding, and organ involvement. One more pathogenesis is direct activations of CD8 T cells that will produce various chemical mediators that will also lead to increased vascular permeability and clinical manifestations of vasculopathy. Both of these will ultimately lead to hypotension and shock and other manifestations. Since there is a fluid leakage, there will be pleural effusion, ascites, bleeding, and all other organ involvement. So clinical manifestations. There is a varied range of clinical manifestations with dengue. It manifests from asymptomatic or symptomatic, undifferentiated dengue fever, severe dengue, dengue with warning signs, and expanded dengue syndrome. We will be looking upon each in the coming slides. Undifferentiated dengue fever, there will be a mild to moderate fever, difficult to distinguish from other viral infections like normal URI and other normal viral gastroenteritis. So what there will be, like maculopapular rash may or may not appear during fever or effervescence, and sign of bleeding or capillary leakage may be absent. So these are there are some warning signs which are associated with dengue. This is very important because these are the patients who will be needing this fluid therapy, because these are signs of fluid leakage, and that will ultimately lead to intravascular fluid depletion. So they have to be repleted with the fluids. So warning signs has to be picked up very quickly in this dengue fever so that they can be resuscitated very early. So these are the warning signs, like recurrent vomiting, pleural effusion, abdominal pain or discomfort, hepatic dysfunction or hepatomegaly. These all are signs of fluid leakage only. Like lung, like RS manifesting as a pleural effusion. In abdomen, if there is an ascites or abdominal pain, there will be some discomfort, hepatomegaly, decreased urine output. Decreased urine output is also a feature of decreased intravascular volume low. So there, since there is a fluid leakage, there also will be hemoconcentration, and because of this decreased intravascular fluid status, there will be cold clammy extremities, and then narrow pulse pressure and rapid pulse. All these things constitute, all these things are manifestations of decreased intravascular fluid or fluid volume and increased fluid leakage. So these are we have seen undifferentiated dengue fever, and then one more thing, dengue with warning signs you have seen. The other manifestation is a severe dengue. Some patients dengue virus infection present with severe manifestations like shock, plasma leakage, bleeding, organ involvement. So we'll be looking upon each things in the further slides. Then one more manifestation is expanded dengue. Expanded dengue is involvement of other organs like CNS involvement. There can be encephalopathy, encephalitis, febrile seizures, IC bleed. In GI involvement, there can be acute hepatitis, fulminant hepatic failure, cholecystitis, cholangitis, acute pancreatitis. In renal involvement, it can manifest as acute renal failure, hemolytic uremic syndrome, and acute tubular necrosis. Cardiac involvement, it can manifest as cardiac arrhythmia, cardiomyopathy, myocarditis, pericardial effusion. Respiratory, it can manifest as pulmonary edema, ARDS, pulmonary hemorrhage, pleural effusion. Eye, it can manifest as conjunctival bleed, macular hemorrhage, visual impairment, optic neuritis. So these are, in summary, symptoms of dengue fever are mild dengue fever can manifest as a headache, pain behind the eyes, high fever, rash will be the nausea, vomiting, flu-like symptoms, joint and muscular pain. This is very, this symptoms complex is very difficult to differentiate from other viral illnesses. But with severe manifestations like shock, severe bleeding, severe vomiting, severe pain in the stomach, blood pressure drops, difficulties affecting the heart, lungs and liver, bruising under the skin, and pulling of blood under the skin, we can think of dengue manifested as with severe manifestations. So natural course will be like with three phases: febrile phase, critical phase, and convalescent phase. So in natural course, in natural course, febrile phase will be, fever will be the predominant manifestation. When the patient enters the critical phase, this is the phase where potential clinical issues happens, where like shock, bleeding, organ impairment will be happening in these days. The days will correspond like from day 4 to day 7, and the recovery phase is the phase where antibodies are formed and then viremia comes down. This critical phase is the phase where the proper fluid leakage happens, and in recovery phase the only uh, uh, manifestation, like only severe manifestation will be like pulmonary edema, when the fluid which has gone out of the blood vessels, when it re-enters the blood vessels, at that time patient can have some pulmonary edema. So only severe manifestation in recovery phase will be a pulmonary edema, whereas all other clinical manifestation will be happening in the critical phase. So it can manifest as shock, bleeding, or organ impairment. So febrile phase, there will be sudden onset of fever. It is a biphasic fever lasting lasting for 2 to 7 days. There will be headache, flushing, and rash. Pain in the retroorbital area, muscles, joint, or bone. Rash may appear after third or fourth day of fever. Localized cluster of petechiae may appear over upper and lower limbs. Critical phase, after 3 to 4 days of onset of fever, documented plasma leakage and high hemo concentration. Hypotension, bleeding, accumulation of fluid in the pleural and abdominal cavity, high morbidity and mortality happens in this critical phase only. I have explained all these severe manifestations of dengue will happen in this critical phase only because of this fluid leakage. There will be hypotension, bleeding, accumulation of fluid in the pleural and abdominal cavity. This phase usually lasts for 2 to 3 days. That day span will be from day 4 to day 7 most of the times. So convalescent phase, during the recovery phase, the extracellular fluid which was lost due to capillary leakage returns to the circulatory system and signs and symptoms improve. This phase usually after 6 to 7 days of fever lasts for 2 to 3 days. Longer convalescence may be expected in severe shock or organ involvement. Patient may develop pulmonary edema due to fluid overload. I don't know, only manifestation, severe manifestation in convalescent phase will be only pulmonary edema because the fluid, or if the fluid replacement is not optimized carefully. So differential diagnosis for dengue fever, it's very important. These are some of the differentials in which are common in our settings, like enteric fever, pharyngitis, tonsillitis, influenza, leptospirosis, Krabs typhus, meningococcal infection, chikungunya fever. So lab investigations, there are certain direct methods and indirect methods. Direct methods constitute virus isolation, genome detection, and antigen detection. Indirect method constitutes detection of antibodies. Detection of antigen is very, very more specific, whereas detection of antibodies is very sensitive. So lab NS1 ELISA test to be done on patient reporting to the first 5 days of fever. Initial 1 week there will be antigen only. So first 5 days of fever we have to detect antigen. After 1 week only we have to detect antibodies. Like we have to do tests for detection of antibodies like IgG, IgM. So serology to be done on or after day 5 by MAC ELISA. So after day 5, we have to do IgM or IgG serology in an IgM only. After 5 days, main IgM dengue ELISA we have to do. Before 5 days, it's we have to diagnose dengue by detection of NS1 ELISA. So in an outbreak, all suspected patients of dengue need not undergo serology for purpose of clinical management. To summarize, it presents mainly as acute febrile illness less than 7 days. So day of fever, detailed history has to be taken, like fever, retroorbital pain, myalgia, bleeding, poor oral intake, and decrease in urine output. Look for warning signs. Warning signs I have already explained. There will be abdominal pain, vomiting, and then we have to look for mucosal bleeding, hepatomegaly, clinical evidence of pleural effusion, ascites, rash, and tachycardia, tachypnea, decreased narrow pulse pressure. Then bedside test which can be done, like tourniquet test, which we commonly known as Hess test, and then capillary filling time we have to see, complete blood count we have to see. Because of fluid leakage, there will be increased hematocrit, like hemo concentration will be there, and then because of this damage to the platelets, there will be thrombocytopenia. If possible, send blood sample to nearby SSH laboratory for confirmation of dengue infection. So diagnosis, we have to diagnose the patient based on their manifestations, like it can be diagnosed as mild dengue, moderate dengue, severe dengue. We have to moderate dengue is the one. Moderate dengue is defined as dengue with warning signs. So severe dengue are the people with dengue fever with significant bleeding, dengue fever 1 and 2 with the significant bleeding, DS, dengue shock syndrome, expanded dengue syndrome, and severe metabolic. All these 4 things comes under severe dengue. Whereas moderate dengue is dengue with the warning signs or dengue with comorbidities. Comorbidities are like infants, aged people like more than 60, and then diabetes mellitus, hypertension, and then immunodeficient people, and then patients who are on steroid therapy. Those patients come under dengue with comorbidities. So dengue with comorbidities and dengue with warning signs, they come under moderate dengue. So management, before going into management, we have to classify the patient into mild, moderate, and severe. Classification of mild, moderate, severe, I have already told. So patient's characteristics in mild, most of the time will be, they will be accepting orally, no morning signs will be there, and then there will be good urine output. So home-based treatment is enough. Like we can send them, reassure them, and then we can ask them to take plenty of fluids. We have to explain them the danger signs, and then most of we can send home. If they develop any danger signs, they have to review the hospital very immediately. So moderate dengue is like the patients will be having warning signs, and the patient will be belonging to the high risk groups, like aged people or infants, or the immunodeficient persons, or patient with diabetes, hypertension. These, I'm talking about adult patients. Regarding pediatric patients, mainly we have to consider infants, and then those who are immunodeficient, and those who are on steroid therapy. So treatment will be like we have to hospitalize, and then fluids has to be given. The fluid resuscitation I will be discussing in the upcoming slides. And severe dengue are the one which have characteristics like severe bleeding, severe shock, severe organ dysfunction, and metabolic acidosis. So those are the people who will be needing intensive care. So domiciliary management, if patients have none of the following, they can manage at home, like if the patient is not having any tachycardia, if the patient is not having any hypotension, if the patient is not having any narrowing of pulse pressure, the patient is not having any bleeding or hemoconcentration, these are the patients should be managed in home, and then they should come for follow-up and evaluation after 24 hours. So in patient ancillary investigations like chest X-ray, PA view, and lateral decubitus 1 day after the temperature drops, these are the investigations to pick up pleural effusion, and ultrasound can be done to pick up ascites, and blood biochemistry we can do. If a patient is having extended dengue syndrome, they can have a liver function test and kidney function test abnormalities, and then serum electrolytes also we have to see. So treatment of moderate dengue. First we have diagnose moderate dengue. So moderate dengue, again I'm telling, moderate dengue are the people like dengue with warning signs or dengue with comorbidities. So these are the people we have to initiate them on IV therapy, like crystalloids are the fluids of choice. We are in our institution, we are giving a normal saline, so it has to be started in 6 ml per kg per hour crystalloid solution for 1 to 2 hours. So after giving crystalloids for 1 to 2 hours, we have to check hematocrit again. If there is an improvement in the sense, if patient's hematocrit has dropped, and then patient urine output has improved, patient BP has improved, the narrow pulse pressure has become broad, and then patient tachycardia has come down. So these are signs of improvement. So in these patients, we have to continue 6 ml per kg per hour for 2 to 4 hours, and then we have to de-escalate to 3 ml per kg per hour for then 2 to 4 hours, and 3 to 1.5 ml per kg per hour, then 2 to 4 hours. So if there is a further improvement, then we have to discontinue IV after 24 to 40 hours. These are the patients who have improvement. If there is no improvement in the sense, if hematocrit rises in this patient, then we have to increase the IV fluids to 10 ml per kg per hour crystalloid for 2 hours. If hematocrit falls very rapidly, like I'm telling about a hematocrit fall of some 10 or 20 within 1 or 2 hours, then we have to suspect internal hemorrhage. So in these patients are the candidates for a blood transfusion, where we have to give 10 ml per kg whole blood or 5 ml per kg Paxil RBCs. So improvement, we have to improvement in these patients also, we have to see for improvement in tachycardia has come down or not, tachypnea has come down or not, blood pressure has improved or not, hematocrit has been normalized or not. These are the things for we have to look for improvement. So dengue with moderate dengue treatment we have seen. If a patient is coming with compensated shock, so compensated shock means initially if a blood pressure comes down, what our baroreceptors will do, they will they will improve the blood pressure by activation of the baroreceptors very in a compensated, hello. So compensated shock is a condition where BP alone is normal, but the patient is having tachycardia, CFT is prolonged, and the peripheral pulses are very poor, and the patient is also having cold, clammy extremities, and pulse pressure is very low, but BP is alone normal. So these patients come under the group compensated shock. So here we have to initiate IV therapy 10 to 20 ml per kg per hour, crystallized solution for 1 hour. Look, in moderate shock, we have started 6 ml per kg per hour, whereas in dengue patients with compensated shock, we are starting 10 to 20 ml per kg per hour of crystallized solution for 1 hour. So after that, if improvement, then we have to go to 10 ml per kg per hour, one more 1 to 2 hours, and then we have to de-escalate to 6-3. Whereas if there is no improvement, then we have to again give one more IV colloid crystal 10 ml per kg per hour for over 1 hour, and again we have to look for improvement. If hematocrit falls very rapidly, then we have to think of internal bleeding. So the funda is, if the patient is having dengue fever, if the patient is coming under moderate dengue, then we have to start 6 ml per kg per hour. If the patient is of compensated shock, initial fluid management will be 10 to 20 ml per kg per hour for 1 hour. So if the patient is having decompensation, like BP also is low, like BP unrecordable or BP is less than 5th centile for the child, then there we have to resuscitate very rapid, like we have to give 20 ml per kg per bolus, and then if there is improvement, then we can come down to 10 to 20 ml per kg for one more 1 to 2 hours, and then we have to de-escalate to 6-3. So decompensated shock, we have to give 20 ml per kg per hour bolus. So what fluids? There is no clear advantage to the use of colloids over crystalloids in terms of overall outcome. However, colloids may be the preferred choice if the blood pressure has to be restored quickly. Colloids have been shown to restore cardiac index and reduce the level of hematocrit faster than crystalloids in patients with intractable shock. So indications for blood transfusion. So loss of blood 10% or more of the total volume blood, or refractory shock despite adequate fluid administration, declining hematocrit. We have seen in our previous slides also, where we have to give blood transfusion, and replacement volume should be 10 ml per kg body weight at a time, and coagulum should be done. So indications for platelet transfusion. Platelet transfusion is not the mainstay of treatment. No need to give prophylactic platelets, even if platelet levels are more than 10,000 per millimeter. Prophylactic platelet transfusion may be given at levels of less than 10,000 millimeter in the absence of bleeding manifestation. So regarding discharge criteria, absence of fever for at least 24 hours without the use of anti-fever therapy. No respiratory distress should be there from pleural effusion ascites. Platelet count should be more than 50,000 per millimeter cube. Return of appetite, good urine output, minimum of 2 to 3 days after recovery from shock, and visible clinical improvement. These are the criteria for the patient to get discharged. So in a nutshell, dengue is a virus spread by Aedes aegypti mosquito. 4 different serotypes exist. Antibody-mediated enhancement is a hallmark for this pathogenesis. Most vulnerable stage is a critical phase after deference. Children with warning signs should be hospitalized. Fluid therapy is the mainstay of treatment. Best guide to fluid therapy is bedside hematology. Thank you. No. There are any doubts people can ask? Okay, I will take this as that I have been clear in all my ideas, and presentation was fine. If there are any doubts, you can ask. Okay.